Rich from 2RC Productions here, and I'm into the build on the Grasshopper. I've been posting pictures on Google Plus, and for those of you who are not on Google Plus, if you're on YouTube, you should get on Google Plus because it's pretty awesome. It's just more of a posting. You know, you can post videos, pictures if you're not familiar with it, things you're doing for the day. Snap a quick photo, put a description on there of what you're doing, and everybody shares their stuff in real time as it's going on. If I'm working on this today, I put a picture of it up today. Videos, you know, somebody might not see it for 2 years after you post it. So Google Plus is pretty cool. But I've been posting a lot of photos of the Grasshopper, and Grasshopper, like you saw in the unboxing, if you haven't saw the unboxing, is one that I wanted when I was a kid that I was unable to get. And now I purchased it. 43 years old now, and I purchased this, and I love the Grasshopper. I've always loved the Grasshopper. My first car, my vehicle that I got was the Hornet when I was a kid, and we did a step up from the Grasshopper because of suspension parts, swing axle, rear oil filled shocks, 540 motor, 540 motor, little upgraded spring in the front, spring suspension in the front with some additional adapters and cups, but I don't have that together yet. But wanted to give you a little view of what I got going on here. Doing some major paint work. It's the first vehicle I've ever painted the chassis. I will drive it, but it'll be driven very easily. Like most of my Tamiya kits they're models. I mean, they're beautiful model kits with working components, steering, suspension, motors. I mean, they're awesome. You can take them for a spin. I'm not going to be bashing this thing. I'm not going to be killing it. It's going to be one that I will eventually pass down to my kids. I will pass all these Tamiya cars down. I have a pretty extensive collection of other RCs, and I have plenty of ready runs that I use for bashers. I don't need to use the Tamiya vehicles for bashers. So anyway, you see I got the green going on, the gold. I decided to go silver on the gearbox. Got a couple of black components here and there. I went with the 540 and an 18-tooth pinion, which is going to get this baby moving pretty good. I painted the raised whites on the tires. I went two-tone on the tires, green center, gold and green outside. See, I got the gold sidebars, and the body is really what I did some work on that. I got the light gray, silver accents, silver top, green, gold, as you can see. A lot of paint work, a lot of masking. I'm very happy with the result. All the lines turned out clean. I didn't have bleed through. Everything turned out really well, and I got a lot of good compliments on the color scheme. So you can kind of get an idea what this is going to look like. But of course, at the end, I'm going to finish building this bad boy. I'm not going to film throughout this whole deal because basically it's a pretty easy kit and it doesn't take long. I just started on it this morning and just tinkering a little bit here and there. I mean, once you got the body and everything done and the tires together, it's probably a couple hours and you got the whole thing built. So that gives you the idea. Painted the character. He's all detailed out inside. Gold. Painted his face. The black insert. Red straps. So just want to give you a look at a Grasshopper here. I think it's going to be pretty unique. After I started getting into this and really going nuts with the paint, I started looking on YouTube a little bit and Google and searching out Grasshoppers, and there's not too many of them that are really done up, you know, to the hilt. It's pretty much a show vehicle. I mean, I'm going to run it a little bit, but it's pretty much going to be a show vehicle. So just love building these kits. So I'm going to break away, finish this bad boy up, and then I'll give you a view all put together. And I'd like to do a little sample run on here too, so you can see it running. And like I say, this small car, light car with a 540, 18 tooth, that's what I had in my Hornet. It's fast. They run good, probably 23 miles an hour or something. 22, 23 miles an hour, 21, something like that. But they move out good. So, all right, guys, check back in. Oh, I'm almost forgetting. I wanted to show you the radio that I'm going to run with the Grasshopper. I went and picked up another iconic, you know, Grace has one of these. She uses for Kumaman, and these are 10 model memory, 4-channel, adjustable wheel, adjustable spring tension. You can go right or left driver. It's got endpoint adjustments, throttle steering dual rate. It's got 50% power, normal power for a young kid, and 10 model memory, 4 channels. $69.99. This radio is fantastic. It's got different grips. You can change the size of the grip for your hand. Absolutely phenomenal radio. I know Josh from Midlife, he just picked up one, and I wanted to buy this one, and now I'm going to start loading up with receivers, and I'm going to use this for most of my kits that I got coming up, because it just gets insane. I was buying radio after radio after radio for every single car, and I got upwards of 30 to 40 something vehicles now, and you need as much space to store the controllers as you do the cars. And most of the time, like if I'm running one of these Tamiya cars, I'm going to be running the car by myself, taking a cruise. So I'm going to put them all in this radio. I'll have all my Tamiyas in one, and then I can just boom, 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 whatever model, take it out, and that's it. Hey YouTubers, Rich here, and I'm assembling a Grasshopper here, and I just kind of wanted to show you this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Hornet, but the Hornet has oil-filled shocks in the back, and these are the original style friction dampener that the Grasshopper has. Little tiny spring, just real basic. I just love the simplicity of this design and how a lot of these cars were made. I mean, it's just a little plastic piece. You stick a screw through there, grease it up, screw it in this bottom piece, pop the top on there, you stick that baby on the back, and that's it, man. Just cool stuff. It's a really easy kit to build, really easy, and a lot of fun. I urge anybody that has not built the Tamiya kit or thinking about building one, grab a kit like the Grasshopper. Grab the Grasshopper. I mean, it was the perfect start back in the 80s. It's the perfect start now. So I just want to show you that. Hey YouTubers, I want to show you this here real quick. In the instructions, it calls for a nut, a plastic nut that you actually break off the tree. I don't know if you can see that. And to me, it's like, why wouldn't they have a steel nut for that? For this, it's to attach the shock to the top of the tower here, the frame. So I just built the Unimog and the Blackfoot kit, and the one thing about Tamiya is, which is awesome, is they give you an abundance of parts. They don't give you exactly the amount of screws. You always end up with a pile of stuff left, and this is just some of the stuff left from the two kits that I built. And I remember them being nuts in there, so I looked in there, and there's some whiz nuts, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to try it and put it on the screw. So you got a steel screw, a steel washer, I don't know if you guys can see that, and then instead of putting this junky plastic nut on there, which I don't like, I'm going to use the steel whiz nut left over from another kit. So there's a lot of things, and once you get into this and you're building these kits for a while, and you start to build up an abundance of parts and screws and hardware, simple modification that's way better than using this plastic nut. So just wanted to point that out. There's a lot of little things you can do to upgrade stuff that if you think something is not what it should be. Another thing is, I'm going to show you this. On the front of this, the standard Grasshopper suspension calls for a bolt going through and then just the spring sitting under here, and just like that. And the Hornet has beefed up front suspension a little bit better. I happen to have an old parts junk chassis here from like 30 years ago. I pulled it out of my supply, and I have both of the spacers intact. I was actually going to rob them from my Hornet and then replace them when I got the Hornet kit, and I just happened to notice that, I mean, this is all junk here, but these cups here will work out perfect. So I'm going to take these off and use them on the Grasshopper. So I'll have a little bit updated front suspension, and then we're updating the mounting in the back. And then instead of opting with the 380 motor, like I said, that comes with it, we went with the 540. So we have a few little upgrades right off the bat with our Grasshopper. And just keep in mind, I always save everything. I tell everybody to save everything, because you never know when you're going to need a part. All these screws, you think, oh, I got all these screws, what am I ever going to use them for? I have piles of them, and I constantly use them for other projects. All right, YouTubers, we got the Grasshopper all complete. I didn't give you every step. I kind of faded in and out, and I was enjoying the build a lot, and I had a lot of paint work on this one. I wanted to do something different than I've never done. Just going to give you a little look at the electronics here. Servo. Went with the iconic ET4 radio. There's a small little receiver there. And then ESC. So you got the wires all taped up nice. I always use the aluminum tape for my wiring. I did multi-colors on the chassis, and those of you, I've gotten comments on Google Plus about it. You know, a lot of good feedback on this body itself. And I didn't really get into the chassis too much. I took a couple photos, but everybody's like, I noticed you're painting it. Is it going to be, are you going to drive it at all? Is it going to sit on the shelf? And like I've said, my Tamiya kits are going to be driven, but not hard. Not driven hard at all. They're going to be sitting on the shelf. I take them out once in a while. This one I drove a little bit yesterday. I tested it and I drove it a little bit. You can see the tires are a little dirty already. And occasionally I will take my Tamiya vehicles out and I take a little spin with them, and I don't beat them up bad. I don't destroy them. These are my collector vehicles. These are my vintage Tamiya collector vehicles, the ones that I couldn't have when I was a kid that I'm buying now as an older guy now, and I can enjoy these and put them up on the shelf and look at them, take them out when I want to. So anyway, multi-colors on this one. I've never painted chassis components, gearboxes ever on any kit that I've ever had since I was a kid. Normally all this stuff is just black. It's all black. So I decided to go with silver on the gearbox. The shocks are stock. These are just friction dampeners that come in the Grasshopper. I opted for the 540 motor, got rid of the 380, went with the RS 540 motor with the 18 tooth pinion, which is the option that they state in the book. And there is no adjustment on the motor itself. You know, like a lot of the newer vehicles, you can adjust the gear mesh and put different gears and all that kind of stuff. This one, it locks into the bolt holes and that's it. So there, you know, there's really not a ton of options with that. So anyway, 540 motor. I went with the metallic gold on the sidebars. Went with the green. I did primer, and then I did the light green on the chassis, and I didn't like it, so then I went to the dark green. Gold bumper, silver suspension arms, the A arms there. Underneath, you'll see I left it the light color, the light green, and the battery door is black. The suspension stay up in front is black, and the axle mounts, or I shouldn't say the axle mounts, but it's basically the gearbox mount is black, and then the little cover, the Tamiya cover that goes over the motor, it grabs the motor. Everything else is painted. The wheels, that was a few steps to get the wheels like that. I actually painted the wheel, or primed them first, then I painted them green, then I went back and hit the gold, and I actually painted the raised whites on the tires too, so the raised white letters stick out. And I got a lot of compliments on the wheels and tires. I love the wheels and tires myself. And at first, you know, I know people are looking at this stuff and trying, and like, what are you doing with all these colors? You got the green, you got the gold, you got the silver. But in my head, I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew it would come out good. That's the awesome part about building kits and doing stuff, is creating your own masterpiece. I love doing this. I love building. These are like building model kits. When I was a kid, I used to build model kits. And these, you could do so much with them, with color and options, like you see here with the look. And you have all these working parts, though. You have working suspensions, you have working motors and gearboxes, and it just adds a whole new element to the build. Even if you are a person that never ran the RC cars and you don't care about running it, they're still awesome to build. Then if you run vehicles on top of it, it's that much better. Now, I have ready-to-runs. I have a bunch of vehicles. I'm probably up to about 40 different kits now, 35. So I have a bunch of vehicles for bashing and ready-to-runs that I could beat up, and, you know, that made for, you know, jumping and flipping and whatever. These are not for that. These are not performers. They're not going to win you any races. They don't handle good. The suspensions are terrible, but they're so awesome. And it's a weird thing, because how could a vehicle be lacking in so many areas but be so awesome? And the only thing I can tell you is buy a Tamiya kit and build it for yourself, and you'll know what I'm talking about. They're just really cool. They're basic, but at their time, when this thing was out in 1984, I believe this came out, this stuff was cutting edge. I mean, people are lining up to buy these and race them and build them. I mean, it's just awesome stuff. This is what put RC on the map. This is why we have all the new technology today, is because of vehicles like this that started it off. So first, the chassis, and you know, the colors just pop. Now I'm going to set the body on top, and there's a couple things I want to mention. Gearboxes and kits, if you haven't built, are probably the most important thing you know, getting your gears lined up and making sure you have the spacers in the right spot and the bearings in the right spot, and you know, everything has to be right, or the gearboxes won't work right, or you'll have problems. You know, they'll be making noise or whatever. So that's the most critical part, is making sure that you take your time and read the instructions thorough and build your gearbox exactly how it shows in the instructions, and you won't have any problem. Now you can go with ball bearings, or you can go with ball bearings like you see here. You could buy those additionally, and you could buy like 10 of them for like $12 or something. And then you have the plastic, just nylon bushings that come with the kit. Now they were different when I was growing up. They weren't like this. They were black plastic. My Hornet has them in there still. And I talked about this before. I never upgraded 2 bearings in my Hornet. My Hornet, for those of you who don't know, was my first RC vehicle ever that I got when I was a kid. And I'm going to have a series coming up on that shortly, where I'm going to be restoring my old one, but keeping all the electronics, the old receiver, the Futaba gear, the mechanical speed controller, and I'm just going to change the parts that need to be changed. I'm going to paint it exactly like I did when I was a kid. And anyway, I had the plastic bushings in there, and a buddy of mine had a Hornet, and he bought the ball bearings. And we used to race all the time, and there was absolutely no difference. Now, we all know that ball bearings, or if you don't know, ball bearings spin freer. I don't have the bearings in these front wheels. I have the bushings. So that you can see they spin a little bit and they stop. With wheels with ball bearings, you'll hit it and it'll just go and go and go. And the idea is that it's less friction, easier spinning. The motor has to work less, you know, less hard to push the vehicle in the same distance that, say, this one doesn't have the bushings. The motor's going to work a little bit harder. This one's going to slow down a little bit faster on the coasting without the bearings. Now, I put all the ball bearings in the gearbox in that. I just didn't in the wheels. I put the bushings in the wheels. And mainly because I ran out, because I only had a couple left. I can always change these at any time. But the gearbox, if I didn't put them in, I'd have to take it all apart. So I do opt for bearings in all my newer vehicles, but when I was a kid, I used the bushings. When I rebuild my Hornet, it's going to have the bushings in it, just like it was when I was a kid. But I drove that car my whole kid life, all the way up to an adult, off and on, and had the bushings in there and never had a problem. So those of you that think you have to buy a new Tamiya kit and you have to put ball bearings in there, you don't have to put ball bearings in there. You can use the bushings, you lube them up, you're not going to have any problems. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, one other thing I want to mention. Tamiya kits, Tamiya and Futaba run hand in hand. That's the way it always was when we were kids. They worked together for whatever reason. I don't know why they had interest together. And it was always Futaba, Futaba, Futaba. You always heard that. And when you went to buy a Tamiya car, they would try to sell you a Futaba. There was other radios that were out there, but they always kind of went hand in hand. And when you work on these servos, I just had this instant, buddy of mine, RC Kennel 27, he just built his first lunchbox kit. And he brought it to me, and it was having a couple issues. And one of the issues was he was steering, and it wouldn't hold the steering. And then as I was looking at it, I noticed it would turn, and then I could go like this and turn it, but it was slipping on the servo horn. So I kind of figured that he had something wrong with the servo saver, and my initial thought was, I bet you he used the wrong servo saver. When you're building Tamiya kits, they have a series of servo savers on the tree. I might have the tree close by. If I have it here, I'll show you real quick. Yeah, I do. So you have a tree like this that has all the different servo savers on there, and they have, on the back, they're labeled with different brands, different companies. And when you are building the kit, you have to make sure that you use the one that's stamped Futaba if you're using a Futaba servo. If you're using another servo, then you got to use whatever one it calls for. And if you could see, they're different diameters on the openings, and they're different gear pattern. There's teeth there, there's spline there that the gear goes into, and it has to line up. So what had happened was, say the Futaba one, he might have used this bigger one, and I got to take it apart, and I'm going to switch it for him. But basically, it was slipping, and it wasn't engaging in the gear. So once you put the right one on there, you won't have that problem. So I just wanted to mention that. It's something to look out for. The other change I did besides the 540 motor on this was I took, like I showed you, the old chassis, and I put the Hornet cups in the shock. It's a much better setup than just having the spring loose and flopping around underneath the mount here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the body on here. And those of you on Google Plus have been looking at photos of this for, you know, a week or so. Those of you who are not on Google Plus or maybe have not seen my post, I want to show you, give you a look now. Now, the only crummy part about the Grasshopper body, and the only crummy part, because I absolutely love this body. I love it way better than the Hornet body. I always did. But like I covered before, the reason that I bought the Hornet is because you got so much more for your dollar. You got the upgraded motor, you got the upgraded suspension in the front, the oil-filled shocks in the back, the swing axle. You had the polycarbonate body, which I like the Grasshopper body better, but the Hornet body is better for racing and bashing and stuff because it's polycarbonate and it can take more abuse. I mean, the Grasshopper body is awesome, but you don't want to beat it up. So the way they mount this is you got these BB1 screws, self-tapping screws that you have to screw all 4 of them in to hold it to the chassis, and it's a pain in the butt. So you almost have to have your battery set up to where you can unplug your battery from the top, fish it out, or just charge it in the vehicle. So this is the finished product with the body on it, and I went with aircraft light gray for my base coat. As you can see here, this is the aircraft gray on the hood. I masked off some silver striping. I don't know if it's picking up on the camera there. I did it on the hood and I did it on the side skirt there. And I went back and masked that, and then I did the green color and the silver color on the roof. And I masked everything off and did it in series. I did a couple coats of the base coat, and then I did, I think, 3 coats of the green, and then I went back and then I clear coated the whole thing, and I did like 3 coats of clear coat, and then I went back and put the decals on and put them where I wanted to. I kind of held to what the box showing for, you know, numbers and stuff, but I actually, you know, switched a couple of them up. I actually cut some of the stock stickers in the back and cut off the red portion and then put those on the side, and it looked really cool with the two-tone green. So you see the look all coming together now, and I was trying to achieve this look, and by having the chassis the same color as the body, like in the front here, it gives it a whole new element and a whole new depth. Let me see the instruction manual here, if you can kind of get an idea how the bottom being black, the body looks separate from the chassis. It looks like a separate add-on with the all black on the bottom. What I was trying to achieve, and I think I achieved it, was making this look more like one unit, like body and chassis together. In the green and the silver, and I know people were looking at this in the beginning and wondering, what the heck are you doing? But the silver, the gold, the green, the aircraft gray, everything just came together. The red on the decals, did the lights gold and put the black stickers in there, and the silver gearbox. It just all really came together. I put the stickers on for my Unimog kit for lights, because I am going to be lighting this up too. It's going to have LEDs on it. I'm not sure how many I'm going to put on there. I think I'm going to only put 4 or 5 on there, but it's going to have LEDs. So I'm trying to make a show hopper, I guess you could say, a Grasshopper show vehicle almost, with lights and everything, which I have not seen done. I painted the character in there, detailed him out real good. He's gold. Painted his face and eyes and everything. I have not seen personally a Grasshopper, and they might be out there, but I have not seen a Grasshopper with this much detail, bottom and top. So maybe someday I might take this to a model show. You know, we used to go to model shows all the time. My dad shows vehicles, and it would be kind of cool to put an RC vehicle in a model show, because it is a model, and see what happens. So anyway, this is the update for the Grasshopper here and the final look, and I'm going to be doing some run videos, and I'm going to do the final viewing of the LEDs in another video. So I just want to kind of combine a quick build / final product of the body and see what you guys think. For all my YouTube audience that maybe is not on Google Plus, I wanted to make sure that I posted and shown you guys what I had going on with the Grasshopper. Hopefully you guys like it. This is probably my favorite vehicle that I have now as far as paintwork. I mean, I love the way it came out, and there was no hassles throughout the project. Sometimes you get where you get into something and then your lines aren't clean and you got to go back and redo stuff. This went extremely smooth. I took my time with it and did a little bit each night, and I didn't really have a plan when I first started. I knew I wanted to do something cool, and then after I started laying the stripes on, it all kind of came together in my mind, and then I kept adding on. I'm going to do the gearbox and do the chassis, and that was kind of like I was him and hawing around that, sure. And then the gold looked so drastic when I first did the bumper. I was like, oh man, am I making a mistake? But then when it all came together, you see it here. So I'm rambling on again. I like to do that, you know that, YouTubers. Anyway, Rich from 2RC Productions here. I want to thank all my supporters, all my subscribers. We're at like 1,700 and